Welcome to Obscuram Conversations. This episode is titled, There's Something About Marie. In this episode, we will explore Theta Healing and dive into how this modality can support you on mental, spiritual, and physical well-being. Marie Miller is the founder of the San Diego Psychic Fair and the owner of the House of Kellen. Her passion for helping people discover their own inner divinity has led her on an adventure of fearless shadow work. She is a psychic medium and certified with a Theta Healing Certificate of Science. Marie is a compassionate and knowledgeable guide who loves to help her people transform their lives on all levels.
Theta Healing is called Theta Healing for a couple of reasons. First of all, because Theta in Greek means soul, so it's soul healing. But also because when we're doing the work, we are in the Theta brainwave. Right now you and I are in a beta, so we're active, we're talking. And when you're doing most meditations, you're in the alpha, so you're super relaxed. But Theta is when you're actually in that dream state. And when you're in the dream state, you can access that 88% of your mind that is your subconscious. I've heard so many people say it, so many coaches say, our thoughts create our reality. But what we have to understand is it's not the 12% of conscious thoughts that are creating your reality. It's the 88% of the subconscious thoughts that are really creating your reality. So what we do is we help you understand what you believed when you were 7 years old about the world, maybe for 10 minutes, that was really true for you and you forgot about it, but it sort of got ingrained in you and you made it mean something. And we just help you through, going through a session, release those beliefs, and then you can heal. Everything our body is a reflection of what we believe. How I found Theta. I was suffering with daily migraines. This is back in the 90s. I was searching for all these different things. And time went on. I ended up in San Diego. And by that point, I worked with a shaman. I did all these different roads. And I knew that I wanted to be alternative healing. I knew that there was something besides just Western medicine. And I saw a little window or display that it was this integrated health clinic. I ended up getting Theta Healing sessions and nutrition device. They completely released me from the migraines. So I looked more into it, got certified. One of the first things I was able to do on myself is, when you go in for your PAP and they're like, you better come back next week, right? We got to investigate this more. So I went home and I worked on myself. And they went to the biopsy and they're like, whoops, we must have been wrong because we don't see what we were, there's nothing there for us to even check. So that was pretty amazing. That was one beautiful step in my journey. 20 years ago, some psychic was like, oh yeah, you're going to be a teacher someday. I just laughed. I'm like, no. And a few years later, I'm working with a friend over the phone. My friend's like, I wish I could do what you do. I'm like, I'll teach you. And that's what started me down on the path of being a teacher. And then when I taught my first Theta class, I'm like, okay, this is where the creator's been leading me this whole time.
How long does healing typically take?
It depends. Some people will come in and in the first few minutes, they can actually have an instant healing. For other people, if there are layers, different layers to why you're in the condition you are, you have to undo all those different layers. If you've been suffering or working through something or living with something for 20 years, it might take you a few sessions. But I've also had people come to me and they're my one and done clients. I see them once, we have an amazing session and I never hear from them again, but I see on Facebook that they're living in Europe and they're married and everything's glorious, right? And they're a completely different person. So it really varies.
So it's interesting because it sounds like it's a multi-purpose modality. Maybe dive into that a little bit of different things that you've addressed across the board.
When I first got into it, I was working with a lot of people who'd had a lot of trauma. So I got really good at doing trauma-informed data, like just watching my words, understanding how to get to the bottom of things without there being any blame or any anger, if that makes sense. And I also have a lot of my early clients didn't remember their childhood, so I learned how to work with lost memories and still be able to release the beliefs and make it safe for them to remember if they choose. And then I moved on to helping people deal with their heart. I had a reputation in San Francisco for a while that if you broke up with someone, you call Marie and she will get your heart back together.
I think it's a very challenging dynamic, being able to deal with blocked memories, leaving space for them to have that choice. How would you say you guide people through that?
Part of it is, first of all, reassuring them and help them understand that we don't actually have to address the memory because the thing that happened isn't the most important part. It's looking at how did I view the world before and how did I view the world after and what changed in my worldview. Because we're just looking for beliefs to change. We're not trying to dredge up memories or put you back in the pain or put you back in the trauma. We're just trying to shift what that trauma did to you. And I had one person I worked with for a few years who went from not being able to remember everything before they were 18 to being able to like watch it like it was a movie, like, oh yeah, that happened and that happened. And it's no longer painful to me because we processed all the emotion behind it and let it go.
There is such an ingrained spirituality component to it.
Mm-hmm.
What is your view on that spirituality?
I say it's like the Linux of modalities because it fits in well with everything. So you can come to the table with whatever you believe in. So when I'm going to the classes, but to teacher classes, you're sitting there with Christians, with Muslims, with people from all over the world, all different religions. I practice Astro, which is why I have all these Celtic symbols in the back. That's my jam. But I love how there's a space for all of it because we're always going back to the source. We're all going tapping from that same energy, and it's not, and there's such respect. And Viana Seibel, the woman who developed it, she has such deep respect for all cultures, which is what's really beautiful, and for all modalities.
How would you address this with, say, someone who's an atheist?
I've worked on atheist clients, and what we just say, do you believe that there is some energy, call it the force from Star Wars if you want, or something that you can call on, some power that you can tap into, then you can work with it.
And I love the Star Wars reference, using the Force. I think that was good use. What's the biggest shift that you've seen this healing modality create?
A couple of them. So I have two big shifts. So my one big story is about love. So I grew up with, because how sisters are supposed to love you. They're like your best friend. They love you unconditionally. That's a story that we tell each other. Mine was physically abusive. So I grew up with this story in my head, and my body honestly believed that love is going to kill me, or love hurts. And having that energy led me into I bounced between, like, I would have a perfect soulmate who treated me well. I would freak out and dump them because I was afraid because there was real love and love was going to kill me. So then I would find someone who was mean to me, who would match that love is going to kill me, and they would be abusive towards me in different ways. And it wasn't everyone, because there was tons of nice guys in between. And then when I was first becoming a teacher is when the other ones happened. So they had a different tone to them, and I had a different understanding of it, but there was still, I really needed to release that belief of love is going to kill me. And it got to the point where someone was trying to do a healing on me, because all of our healing is done through unconditional love. And the healing came in and got bounced out, and it was rejected. So I wasn't even able to heal because I was so afraid of love. And so, of course, we switched that in class. That was when I was getting one of my teacher certifications. And jump to now, I finally am with not just any soulmate, but the first guy I ever dated, the first person I dumped because I was afraid, because he was starting to fall in love with me. I'm like, ooh, love, run away, right? Because what the creator had shown me is like, because I was getting all mad, like, oh, I'm ready for my soulmate. I've been calling them in, I'll get in jerks. And I was in a meditation, and I realized I'd actually had dated at least 6 honest, true, perfect soulmates. And as soon as I felt that they were truly about to say, I love you, I would Virgo some way, some reason why they weren't right for me, and make them go away. And they'd marry the next person. And I thought my story was, I fixed them. But the truth was, they were ready for me. They were ready for me to be everything I wanted them to be. But because of belief that was buried there, there's a second belief. So love was going to kill me was the first one, but the deeper belief about why I had to dump the nice ones was this ancestor who was really adventurous. She traveled the world. She was amazing. So I got these beautiful virtues from her, because when we inherit things from our ancestors, they gift us virtues. It's just they happen to learn them through holding a belief that is possibly damaging. So her belief was, oh my God, Marie, if you get married, you have to have kids. There's no choice in this. And they are going to kill you on the way out. She was so afraid of dying in childbirth.
Wow.
But she encompassed all the things I wanted to be. So I got her fear and her thing. So I'm like, okay, we're going to change that. And literally the next day, the guy I'm with committed. I'm like, alrighty then. So I live in Ohio now.
Oh my goodness. And congrats.
Yeah.
Wow. So going into the ancestry is something that you tap into with Theta as well.
Oh, we have one of my favorite classes. We have a class just for ancestors. It's called World Relations. And it's literally about going into, okay, who did my ancestors disagree with and why, and how do I release that? And it's really good for those of us who can feel conflicted, because I'm like, I feel this. Or if your parents came, for your great-great-great-grandparents came from 2 cultures that didn't get along, sometimes there's that internalized self-hatred that you can't dig into. And so this is one way to not just help you work with other people, but help you understand your genetics and help you understand who you are and to love every single part of you. So it's an amazing class.
It's very fascinating because there is scientific evidence, epigenetics, that goes into the actual physiological signs and symptoms of this very thing. So are you really familiar with epigenetics as well?
Yes, I am.
And is that something that's taught with Theta?
We mention it because that is sort of like the backup for it for people that understand it. So for people who are watching, epigenetics is basically like you have, say, a famine, right? And so everyone's like, oh my gosh, there's not enough food. And they're living in the energy of there's not enough food. And then the next generation is still carrying on that energy if there's not enough food. And so they might be overweight, and it keeps getting passed down until someone says, oh, wait, we have enough food. Yeah. And then they go way deeper than that.
How many generations of ancestors can impact you today?
Part of it is, it depends on which level, right? So I would say the strongest impact is going to be from just going back 7 generations, the last 7 generations, right? Because those are stored in your genetic memory. Once you get to 8 generations and deeper, it gets a little fuzzier because that's stored in your history level. So part of it's because it's stored different in a different part of your body, different part of your belief system. But that one that I was talking about that had that hold over me, she was definitely more than 8 generations ago, but she was very loud. So it depends. It just depends on like how big of an impact they had too.
This also leads me to the question of, is that ancestor also, let's say, like a guardian angel type or guardian of the family line?
She's not, but I do have my great grandma Kellen, who I named the business after, as one of my guardian angels, and grandpa Constantine, who was super psychic. So we do have, like, sometimes ancestors do decide that they want to hang out with us as guardian angels. And on that topic, that's something I think we teach. I forget if it's basic or advanced, but it's amazing because like most people have anywhere between 2 and 20 guardian angels, depending on what's going on. So it is really fun to learn how to take a look at those.
I typically don't term the ancestors as guardian angels, but a lot of people do. Like there's a story from the 80s, trigger warning, there was a gentleman who went to go bomb a school. And students, teachers who were present, held hostage by this individual. They survived, but they saw their guardian angels and they figured it out. It was an ancestor. But then there's also like archangel dynamics. And what are your thoughts on that?
Well, there's so many different types of guardian angels. So it just depends on what's going on in your life. So sometimes they're going to look like the paintings, but I've also seen guardian angels that are geometric shapes, right? And part of it is I usually identify them by their positioning. So guardian angels usually right over the shoulders. But if someone's like a guide from the 4th plane or someone else, they're usually off to your sides or sometimes in front or different areas. Because guardian angels try to, like when you move, they move with you and they kind of hide. Whereas if it's a guide from a different plane, they sometimes run around your feet or stand right next to you. So to me, that's how I distinguish between, besides just feeling the vibration, the different parts of divinity. So in Theta, we divide up the universe, or how everything works, into 7 different planes of existence, as they're called. And they're basically different vibrations. So the creator, source, energy, whatever it is, that is the 7th plane. It's moving really, really fast, right? So that's why when you tap into that energy, it's just pure creation. You can have your instant healings. You can bring miracles because it's just nothing but potential energy and unconditional love and creation up there, right? So that's the 7th plane. And then when you come down, it's the 6th plane, which is the laws of the universe. Basically, it's what holds everything together. It's the agreements that say this is a pen and things like that. And, this is the color blue. All those different laws. There's time, energy, like hundreds of different laws, right? And so that's vibrating a little bit slower. And the next plane is the 5th plane. And this is when we do the meditation, it's bright lights and it's the big golden light. But that is so much going on there. I won't go into all of it, but that's where your angels are, your demigods, your ascended masters, your Buddha, your Christ, Odin, all the fun people are up there. And then right below that and right next to us is the 4th plane, and that's where the ancestors are and a lot of your earth deities and a bunch of other fun stuff. The 4th plane is where you go right after, because we're in the 3rd plane, of course. So that's our vibrations of 3rd. So the 4th plane, right, where our ancestors are, it's just vibrating that much quicker than us. And then below us is the 2nd plane. So plants, fairies, trees, all that fun stuff. And the 1st plane is rocks. So they're just right there. When we do the advanced class, we go really deep into these and help you understand them. And there's always one plane of existence. You're like, yeah, I get that plane. I understand it. I resonate with it. For me, it was the fourth plane because when I was a kid, I started seeing ghosts when I was 2.5. So that was just a normal part of life for me. I'm like, hey, fourth plane, what's up, Bob? Just like, that's a day, right? Which is still fun. I love it. But I realized, and when I was a student in that class, I'm like, wow, the second plane and I don't understand it. I don't get it. I'm in conflict with it. So I took the time to really learn how to be good at it, right? And learn how to be on that vibration. And so, yeah, fairies are a huge part of that learning. But it got to the point where I was able to tune my vibration into them enough and work with them enough. And of course, you always want to work with them through the creator. That's a whole nother thing. That they started teaching me all sorts of really fun stuff. They showed me this energetic crystal dialysis that I can only do in person because it involves a bunch of runes that I've already made, petrified wood, crystals, and some tea. And it's a dialysis, so it pulls the energy out of you, filters it, and brings in a new energy.
Interesting.
And that was just downloaded from the Fae one day. So it's the fun stuff you do after you take a couple classes and you release enough beliefs. You're like, wow, the things that I can do, that the doors that it opens are kind of endless.
What was the path to make amends with the second plane?
The first thing I did was okay, I need to learn how to raise plants without killing them. That was the first step, was I need to figure out, because we're vibrating faster than they are. And so we have to learn how to tune our energy to their level. Because if you talk to a plant the way you talk to a cat, it's going to be and crumble. They're very delicate. So part of it is learning to just really slow down and be really present. They're very good practice for a lot of things. And before you can work on a human nervous system, you really need to practice going into plants, because the human nervous system is more delicate than that is, which is funny because eventually, after I got really good at working with plants, I started getting clients who needed work on their nervous system and their brain. And trees, honestly, if you're nervous about what I said before about working with plants, trees are always a really good place to start. Growing things from seed is really good practice. And it's also helped you be unattached to the outcome of things, in healing, because you're okay, I'm going to plant 20 of you. I've nurtured all of you and I've got one. Okay, love you, you one that made it through. And there's a lot of beautiful lessons in seedlings.
Segueing a little bit, earlier you mentioned about having psychic abilities in your family line. So how's that played part in your path in general, and what sort of abilities have you noticed that you have from your genetic line?
Okay, well, there's actually two different ones. What helped was because as a kid starting to see them, my mom didn't know exactly how to deal with hers. So I was really blessed when I started showing signs. She's like, oh, okay. And then she started just finding young adult books and putting them out for me to support it. So that was a huge thing, because I've worked with so many clients and people who they had traumatic experiences around their abilities when they were younger. And so going back and correcting that, because really everyone's psychic, but a lot of us shut it down because of the belief systems of the people around us, or because it was kind of scary for us. I grew up just seeing ghosts all the time. I have the ability to just know someone's history. And I was actually kind of upset about that, because when I was young, I'm like, what good is that? This is before Theta. I'm like, oh, that's why it's good. Because I thought everyone wanted the psychic to know the future. But my mom also has an ability to just she'll walk by someone and just know everything that's happened to them. She also has the ability that if she has a laying on of hands, so she can just touch you and you're healed. I didn't get that one so much, but we're pretty sure they jumped over to my nephew, because my oldest nephew was seeing ghosts when he was 5. So I got to teach him how to clear them. And his little brother takes after my mom a little bit, and I take after mom's dad. So I can kind of see it. And great grandma Kellen, she's also told me that she had abilities too. I mean, everybody has some sort of ability, and all you need to do is nurture the one you have and be happy with it and love it and grow it. And then you're going to find you have all sorts of different ones, because there's so many more abilities than you can really name. Once I really understood what my gift was good for, and really accepted it, and okay, this is actually pretty awesome. Because I said, I was mad at it for a while, because it was kind of annoying when it wasn't quite under control. When I was waitressing and I walk by my boss's ex and get their whole trauma dumped on me. I was getting a little trauma dumps happening to me a little bit. So, but once I learned, okay, this is why you're gifted for. This is what it's good for, and this is how you use it. Honestly, it stopped happening that way. Interesting. What will happen is your gift will go through this thing where you're presented with a gift. You're like, here it is. It's going to escalate until you either accept it or reject it. And once you accept it, it's okay, whew, I can calm down and be a normal part of the background noise, the room tone, instead of being a jackhammer. And another gift is going to be like, oh, hello. As you learn to accept the gifts, right? Then they come in softer.
Are you able to tune into gifts individually, or is it just kind of like a homogenized experience?
At this point, it's just whatever gift the person in front of me needs me to use, but I can also call on one gift specifically if that's what I want to do. It's just like you have a toolbox or a palette of colors and just pick up the appropriate one for the moment.
Do you feel like Theta Healing has kind of helped you in managing that, or is that something prior to Theta Healing?
Yeah, it helped a ton. Even things like ghost busting went from a whole process that I would go through that would like take an hour to clear a house, and now I'm like, I just cleared the whole block in like 10 seconds, so I don't really charge for it. I used to like charge to ghost bust, and I'm just like, well, you just tell me when we're doing the session and I'll just take care of that.
Very cool. Do you do it remotely, or do you have to be present for that?
No, we do it remotely. I actually just work it into my sessions.
So do you have to check with the ghosts first if they're ready to leave, or have you had any ghosts push back?
Oh, if they push back, I know how to make them. No, I don't check. Because when someone is away where they're actually not in a comfortable state because they're at the wrong vibration. Because they're supposed to be in the fourth plane, but they're in the third plane. I've done past life work on people who had that experience of being a wayward or being a ghost, and it's not comfortable or fun. So, but here's what you do, because I'm a medium too. So you kind of like, okay, off you go, alley-oop, go to the fourth plane. And then if I need to talk to them, I talk to them there. A friend had hired me to clear his house. This was when I was still learning how to do it a little bit quicker. And that was the first time I cleared a house where there was a suicide. Nasty. He actually physically was able to bite me on the leg. So that was interesting, but that was an interesting amount of work. But yeah, because those are stickier. Able to clear it, so I got to cut my teeth on some interesting things, interesting experiences. So, but if you do want to really tap into your power and expand your gifts and really be open to everything the universe has for you, there does have to be a level of acceptance that there are other things, that we share the universe with other beings. And so if you have a fear of ghosts, if you really want to develop your abilities, you need to move past that fear. Doesn't mean you have to be a ghostbuster. It just means you have to accept that we share the universe with things that some people would think are scary. But really, once you get that seventh plane perspective, you see that they're just a part of all the theater that we have going on, and all the different, they're there to play a part in the different belief systems of the humans. The more that I learn about this, because I still have more things that I'm learning, it's just fascinating how even the concept of who we are and what we are, understanding that we're not just us in our space. For instance, like when we do the intuitive anatomy class, which is a 50-day class of just talking to the body and like, hey, liver, what do you believe? Day one's one of my favorite days because it's microbes. I love viruses. I think they're adorable. But we actually have more microbes than we have cells. Our physical body's made up of others. We're not really ever alone. And we have these other loud things going on in us. So there are classes to help you tell the difference between, is it really my thoughts? What do my thoughts feel like? How do I know what's my thought and what is the microbe's thought?
Oh my gosh, you can even go down to that level.
Oh, yeah. It goes into all sorts of fun places. I think the one thing, because I do this professionally, this is my job. I love being a Theta healer. I love being a Theta healing teacher. But what's coming up for me a lot is letting people understand that you don't just take the classes to be like me. We don't want a whole bunch of little Vianna's, little Marie's running around. It was actually created for you to be the best version of you. So even though you get certified as a practitioner, it really is about being the best version of you, even if you never hang up your shingle and become a Theta healer. It's really about transforming yourself and having you create something magical that's all of you.
So I think that is a great nugget of wisdom to really encapsulate everything about this. Where can we find you?
Okay, you can find me at houseofkellen.com or Facebook /House of Kellen. So it's Kellen. I also have an Instagram and a TikTok that I haven't used yet. But yeah, you can find me in all the places. Feel free to message me through my Facebook business page. I love chatting with people. In the fall, I'm going to be doing an Abundant Healers Summit. It's going to be like a 5-day summit. It's going to be a mixture of you can join us live, you can join the Facebook group to get unlimited access to all the replays and the interviews. And it's basically because it took me way too long to have abundance. So I want to help people who, whatever healing you do, if you're Reiki, if you've made up your own modality, if you do Theta, we don't care. Like, just come and learn how to be more abundant. So I'm going to have people who've been really abundant in Theta, and just people also from different industries who understand this whole money thing, which is a big hang up for a lot of healers. And then right after that, I'm doing what I'm calling the Master's Path, which is basically a 5-month-long program of most of the Theta Healers classes, but more than that. It's not just take a bunch of classes with the same group of people. I call these people in who want to go through this process together as a pod. And we're going to have also weekly practice sessions taught by more than just me. So I'm calling in a bunch of my other friends, so that way you can get not just Marie's perspective of how to do Theta, but these other people who've got about the same level of teaching experience as I do. So you're going to get like all this different information, and included in the package is like one-on-one sessions with me to guide you through. And it's based, I call it the Master's Path, because it's going to prepare you to have all the practitioner classes you need if you want to go on to get your master's with Viana.
Thank you so much for joining today, and I'm super excited to hearing more about what you're doing and creating out in the world. To find links, pictures, and more, go to www.obscuram.com. OBSCURAM.com.